good evening and welcome back to episode 12 of Autism Journeys, and our two guests this evening are Anna Kennedy and Liane Holliday-Wiley.
Tonight's first guest, Anna Kennedy, is a mum, an autism advocate, an author, a patron of charities, the organiser of Give Us a Break anti-bullying campaign, and the founder of Hillingdon Manor School. I'm so thrilled that you've decided and agreed to come on board. I suppose we're going to start immediately into it and ask you a couple of questions. The first one being your background on autism, what your inspiration for setting up all of these wonderful endeavours that you've set up.
Well, I have two sons. Patrick, who's 27, has a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, and Angelo, who is 24 now, and he has a diagnosis of severe autism, quite a significant sensory processing condition and nocturnal epilepsy. And due to the lack of provision of where I live in West London, we decided to remortgage our home and set up a school, because my boys were at home for 3 years just receiving 5 hours home tuition, and I was getting very, very frustrated about reading lots of different books, as parents do once their children have been diagnosed, about how important it was for early intervention. So decided to take the bull by the horns, if you like, and just set up our own provision. And it was a real roller coaster of a learning curve for everything. So if I had to do it again, I probably would. But it was definitely a journey of ups and downs, and it was a fantastic project. And so much so, we decided to set up another school, a college for adults, because as our boys were growing up, we were looking around to see what there was in the area, and there was nothing at all. So we set up a college now that has 45 adults. The school has 190 children, and the second school we set up has 90 children. So, and then we decided to set up a charity about 6 years ago, and that was because of parents writing to me about the difficulties that they were having that I had all those years ago with diagnosis, trying to find the right type of school, transition, once they got to adulthood, what was available, how do you fill out a disability living allowance form, what's the blue badge, all those sort of questions that parents have to go through once their child has been diagnosed with an autism spectrum condition.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. Anna, I know that the very first school you set up was, is it the Hillingdon Manor School, would that be right?
Yeah.
And did you say that you've got 190 pupils there now?
Yeah, 190 pupils that travel in from 19 different local authorities. So it's been, the school has started off with 19 pupils and then just grew and grew, and it's now spread over 3 different sites very close to each other. So we have a primary site, we have a secondary site, and then, if you like, a sixth form type, preparing the pupils for the world of work or for college.
That is absolutely amazing. And to think that it came from a parent's vision initially.
It was out of frustration, really, because obviously my boys were only getting 5 hours of home tuition, and one of the ladies that was working with my eldest son, we ended up employing her, and then the lady that was working with Angelo had never worked with a child with autism before, so she just felt totally out of her depth.
Okay. Anna, does the school meet the needs of lots of varying levels of functioning with children with autism, or would it be more high functioning or low functioning?
Well, if you imagine, when I opened the school, obviously my boys are so different from each other. So, I have Angelo, who has minimal speech, obviously quite a significant sensory processing condition, where Patrick has got a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. I couldn't set up 2 schools, so we had to make it work. So what we did was we set up the main building first of all, and then we had for children like Patrick, there was 7 in a class, 8 maximum, with the teacher and a one-to-one support. And then children like Angelo, who were working with their independent living skills and speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, there was 3 to 4 children in that class with one-to-one support for each child.
That is absolutely fantastic. Anna, with regards to moving forward, then I know that you're very active today in disability bullying issues and creating awareness around autism in the UK. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do whatever I can, really, to try and create any opportunities for individuals on the spectrum. And then also, because of parents writing to me through the power of social media or through our charity website, Anna Kennedy Online, we've almost sort of created a virtual autism community where parents are supporting each other, where they're sharing strategies or just want to have a little rant, because they're feeling frustrated or feeling isolated. I do some research on articles that I think parents might be interested in. I don't endorse all the articles, only the ones that obviously come from myself, where I know that, if it's from the school, I know that some of the strategies that we share from the school, I know that work, but it's for everyone to read, to make up their own minds. There's just so much stuff out there, good and bad, with reference to autism. So what I just try and do is raise as much awareness as I possibly can, obviously trying to get as much acceptance. I've gone into the world of performing arts, and that was because of my contact with a lady called Debbie Moore, and she is the founder of Pineapple Dance Studio, and she's a really, really inspiring lady, and her company was the first company as a woman to be in the FTSE 100. So I went along to one of their shows, and because parents had been writing to me about their children being bullied, whether it be in mainstream, whether it be in special needs school, whether it be in the community, whether it be online, a lot of parents were saying that their children were turning to the performing arts to help them get through their ordeal. So they were either teaching themselves how to sing or play the piano, play the guitar, a comedian, a magician, set up a band, fantastic artwork. I decided that I wanted to create something to showcase what our children and adults can do, and to show that they can achieve. So what I decided to do was, after seeing the show at Pineapple, I thought I wanted to do something myself. So I spoke to my team. I said, how about we put on a show in the centre of London, in a theatre that has lots of dressing room space, and we'll showcase 20 performers. And I sort of followed it from the format, if you like, from Britain's Got Talent, but without the competition element, so that it wouldn't add anxiety. So we decided to give it a go. We spoke to Pineapple, and then we met a lovely lady called Maggie from Pineapple Performing Arts, who works with children, and she decided she wanted to support us with that. So we had a stage manager, and we had the tech guys, and the first show that we did was almost 7 years ago. It was absolutely amazing. There was 500 people came to watch the show. It was just, people talked about it for weeks on end. We weren't sure if it was going to work, because obviously, if you can imagine, you've got 20 performers coming from across the country. We're trying to put a show together in 2-3 days. They've never met us before, so what we did was a meet and greet the night before, so they could familiarise themselves. We sent them as much information as we possibly could, and then the next day was the day of the show. So we had everybody in at 9 o'clock, showing them their dressing rooms, prepare them as much as we possibly can, and then we went through the tech rehearsal, and then the show started at 7 o'clock. And you know what? It just really works. It's just something special about this show. So we're in our 7th year now, and there's so many positive feedback that's coming from the show, and also opportunity. So say, for example, one of our young people, he's now the patron of the charity. Most of the patron and ambassadors are on the autism spectrum.
Good.
So they're role models. So we've got like world kickbox champion. We have a young man that goes to the Royal Ballet School. We've got another man who's part of the Magic Circle.
Wow.
So it's really, really amazing. So it just shows you what these young individuals and adults can achieve. Autism with Attitude is a street dance crew from our school, Hillingdon Manor School. They competed in World Championship. Sorry, can you hear my son in the
I can.
They competed in a championship, and they came third, and now, because of them becoming third, they're now going to be competing in Germany, and they're the first ever SEN dance crew, if you like, street dance
amazing.
crew, that are going to, so they're making history, really. So we're really excited about that. So they were just recently filmed on BBC. Last year the BBC came to film some of the show, and they focused on a young man that had autism and ADHD, who was a drummer, an amazing drummer, and then they highlighted the show. So that was on BBC Breakfast, so much so that it went on the 1 o'clock news as well, because people were so inspired by what they saw. So as I say, what I'm trying to do is create as many opportunities as I possibly can, whether it be through performing arts, whether it be through being an ambassador of our charity or a patron, trying in the workplace as well, trying to see if we can, create a few more work placements for individuals. So it's just whatever I can, thinking out the box really, just trying to think out the box of what else can I do to create opportunities, as well as campaigning, which is really important, and then obviously our anti-bullying campaign, because a lot of parents again wrote to me about their children or adults being bullied, as I said, either within school or online, which is on the increase, of course, and within the community. So we set up our anti-bullying campaign called Give Us a Break, and it's been going now for quite a few years. I've been working with the NSPCC, Childline, and then one of our young patrons, Ryan Wiggins, he created a video about himself being bullied called Tomorrow, and that was 3 years ago, and it just went viral. It went everywhere. It was really quite powerful, and then that went in the Daily Mail and the Mirror, and it got people writing to him, sharing stories about how they had been bullied, and how his story had inspired them. So Ryan now, as I say, looks after our YouTube channel. I put him forward for the Diana Award, which he got. I put him forward for the British Citizen Award. We have a gentleman as well called Austin Hughes. He is one of what I call my A-team, and he's on the autism spectrum, and he gives advice. He now works for West Ham United Foundation. He is their inclusion manager and community manager, so he's doing a lot of great work out there, trying to get children included in sports within schools, and also spreading the word about our anti-bullying campaign, Give Us a Break. So it's just, as I said, just trying to open doors where before they were shut. So trying to find the key and see how can we get in there.
Excellent. And Anna, can you tell us a little bit about the Autism Hero Awards?
Yeah, that's just recently finished, and we'll be opening up entries again for next year. So we're in our third year of Autism Hero Awards. So I used to compare the Hero Awards in Wales, and I did that for 2 years in a row. And then the founder of the Autism Hero Awards decided that she wanted it to go UK-wide. So she said, I can't think of anyone else better than you, Anna, to take it over. So she handed it over to us, and it's just been huge. We did it last year. We had to get a bigger venue this year. We had hundreds of entries in. We had 6 judges that found it really difficult to choose 3 finalists for each of the 12 categories. We invited 36 finalists down to London to the Radisson Blu, where the winners were announced for each category. We had one of our singers from the Autism's Got Talent who showcased our first anti-bullying single, Hollow. That's actually on our website as well, which is an amazing single that's been really well received. And then one of the other young performers, Emma Awai, she sang at the Hero Awards too. And it was such an amazing evening that obviously now we're going to be going on to our third Hero Awards. So I'm actually going tomorrow to go and have a look at the venue again, and to negotiate the date, and to start spreading the word for that. And something else we're working on, which is a regular event of ours, is the Autism Expo, and that's at Brunel University. This is our third expo, and that will be on March the 10th.
Very good. We were fortunate enough to have Richard Mylan on our last show, and his son Jaco got a Special Recognition Award.
He did, Jaco. Yeah, Jaco got a Special Recognition Award, and Richard was shortlisted as one of the 3 finalists. Yeah, he's amazing, and just such a lovely guy, and Jaco's doing so well, and I love the documentary that they put together. So one of our winners was Professor Uta Frith as well, for the Lifetime Achievement. So it's we get so many nominations, and it was so difficult for the judges that they actually asked for an extra couple of hours to because they were finding it difficult to choose the final 3.
My Lord, fantastic! I'm feeling very lazy listening to you with all the fantastic work you do.
I don't stop. No, I am a workaholic. I'm actually patron to UK Charity Week, which kicks off tomorrow. So that is basically to highlight charities And I like to focus on the smaller charities that work just as hard as the bigger charities, but they struggle for funding. And for me, I think the smaller charities are the lifeline to a lot of families and the backbone, if you like. So what I'm saying is don't forget about the smaller charities. They need as much funding as the bigger charities. So what I'm doing is I'm working with Charity Today, who have, they started it last year, UK Charity Week. So they were so impressed with how I am on social media that they actually one of their patrons. So I'm really pushing starting tomorrow. Basically, come on, let's support our local charities. They work very hard and they need the funding to keep going.
Well, I suppose that bottom up strategy works best for people that are dealing with autism every day, rather than that trickle down top to bottom effect.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the bigger charities are doing a lot of good work, but don't forget about the smaller charities that are supporting a lot of local people, and obviously there to give support because they're local.
Tell me, Anna, I know you're talking about a lot of your people getting awards and stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about your own award, the OBE for Royal Reward for Inspirational Mother?
God, that was I think it was 2013 that I met the Queen, which was really quite surreal. I went along to Buckingham Palace to receive the award for my work with special educational needs and setting up a school and for autism awareness raising. And it's obviously fantastic to receive such an award, and obviously I'm humbled, but it's also, I use it as a tool to help me, if you like, instead of knocking on the door, something like the OBE might give me the key to open the door to try and get through to speak to people to support our young people. So when I was there, I actually bumped into Kate Winslet and Gary Barlow was there, and Kate Winslet was talking to me about the Golden Hat Foundation that she set up in America because her daughter was friends at the time with a young girl with autism, and she was so overwhelmed with how she had to struggle to get support that they decided to set up the Golden Hat Foundation. So we chatted about autism, and that was just really surreal because I went to their Buckingham Palace, obviously, at lunchtime, and then I went back home, I was loading the washing machine, doing what mums do, and I just thought, 1 minute I'm shaking hands with the Queen, and then the next minute I'm loading the washing machine and trying to clear a blocked toilet as well at that time.
I love it. Anna, I know that you've actually received a lot of other awards as well. You've received a Woman of the Year award in 2009, and you've been in receipt of the Achieving Mum of the Year for Tesco Mum in 2013 as well. So it must feel great to have your work as a mum acknowledged as well as your work as an autism advocate.
It's great, and I've made so many friends as well. Like, for example, 2 years ago I did the People Strictly, so that was the People's version of BBC Strictly, and it was the first time they'd ever opened it up for the public. So there was 25,000 people that were nominated, and they narrowed it down to 6, and I was lucky enough to be one of the 6. And 5 other people that were there, there wasn't anything to do with autism, but they were to do with like MS. They were just amazing people, and we've still kept in contact, and we support each other. So I just meet a lot of fantastic people along the way, where we either network together, or we support each other, or we spread the news together about, not only about autism, but I spread the news about what they're doing. So it's great to receive the awards, and I'm really grateful. But it's also good to meet inspirational people, and to use the award to try and further the acceptance, if you like, or awareness about autism.
And I'm going to ask you one final question. You spoke wonderfully about the Autism's Got Talent show. Mm-hmm. Is there any chance at all that you'd ever consider coming over to Ireland for our children too?
A lot. You know what? The show is open for anyone across the country. We've got acts that apply from overseas. Okay. So last year we had acts from Croatia, Sweden, America, Canada. This year we've had acts apply from Morocco, America again, Fiji Islands.
Oh, wow.
So it's becoming worldwide.
Oh, fab.
So, so it's not only for people in the UK, and we're opening the Hero Awards as well next year worldwide. So, because we had people that wanted to nominate again from Canada, from different, European countries. So why not stop? Why stop at UK? Let's sort of open up to the world and overseas, and welcome people in to share what they're doing to raise awareness about autism and all the fantastic work that's going on out there. There's a lot of doom and gloom stuff that's out there about autism, and we know about that. We know about how hard it is, and I know a lot of parents get frustrated when they highlight about just people who are, say, Asperger's syndrome or on high function end of the spectrum. There are parents who are having a really tough time where their children are non-verbal and they're not sleeping. Like my son Angelo sleeps 3 to 4 hours a night. When they're dealing with smearing, when they're dealing with difficult behaviour. So autism is a spectrum condition, and I know it's very frustrating for parents when they watch programs like the A Word, which is great talking point. Obviously, people are talking about autism, but what they're saying is don't forget about our children that are not as high functioning.
I suppose
on the A Word, I think Louis Theroux did a good program a few years ago about children that had more challenging behaviour, and I think there should be more programs like that, just to raise more awareness and just say, look what parents are dealing with. Their carers again are the backbone of society. Because us mums and dads and grandparents that we rely on, they're just a lifeline as well, to so that we can get a little bit of a break, and respite is needed. There's just so many topics you could talk about, really, couldn't you?
And I suppose the flip side too about people like the understanding of high functioning as somebody that's verbal or that's capable, when in fact a child that could be considered high functioning may not be functioning well in everyday scenarios, but they may have anxiety that is absolutely crippling them to the point where they can't access school and stuff.
And that's why early intervention is so crucial, because if the children do get early intervention, then hopefully that won't develop into mental health issues. Because I saw just recently where they were talking about saying, people on the autism spectrum, there are a higher rate of suicide. So if families were given the support early on and respite, and I know it's all to do with cuts, and I know it's really difficult, but do you know what? You are fighting for the rights of your child. For me, it's like, I don't care about cuts. It's about, I want the support for my son or my daughter so that they can lead as independent life as they possibly can.
But like, you're offering such a great service and such great support for everybody anyway, with that networking and with those interactive online forums and whatever. They are brilliant, absolutely fantastic in supporting parents when they're not getting access to those services.
That's right.
Listen, Anna, I'm going to have to finish up. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I'd just like to say thanks so much for agreeing to come on the air and for sharing your story, and I look forward to seeing you here in Cork next year for the Autism's Got Talent show.
Okay.
Anna, thank you very, very, very much, okay?
Thank you very much for inviting me on the show.
Thanks a million, Anna. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
It won't ever be right. It don't run in our blood. The kind of looks just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler. You can call me Queen Bee, and baby, you're rule. Let me live that fantasy.
And now let's welcome Liane Holliday-Wiley. She's also a mum, and she's an adult with Asperger's syndrome, an educational and motivational speaker, a volunteer, a university professor and an author. Hi Liane, how are you? Listen, thanks so much for agreeing to come on the show this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Liane, I'm going to get right to the point. I'm going to start with what age you were diagnosed at.
I was diagnosed, like 34, 36, something like that.
Okay. And up to that point, you were completely unaware as to whether or not you had a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome?
Oh, absolutely. I would never have qualified for an autism diagnosis at that point because I was too verbal, and I had no idea until my daughter was diagnosed, and then the pieces all flew together.
Very good, very good. Can I ask, what age was your daughter when she was diagnosed, Liane?
She was 6.
She was
her
6.
Official diagnosis 5 when we started this with the journey.
And from that point to now, how have things played out?
For my daughter or for
No, for yourself, I suppose, first of all, because I know that you're an educational and a motivational speaker, and I know that you've got a huge interest in psycholinguistics and learning style difference and all that kind of a crack. So could you tell me a little bit about how your interest, I suppose, became focused on that area after your diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome?
Sure. Well, as luck would have it, it turned out that I studied in college and really in high school human behavior and language patterns and intonations, and I was really focused on pretty much everything that came out of someone's mouth, and I would stare at their mouth, just mesmerized by everything facial, from the nose down, and I had no idea that was everything that someone with autism might do, and I turned it into degrees. So I kept studying it for 1 degree, then 2 degrees, then 3 degrees. So communications degrees, psycholinguistics degrees, and a heavy emphasis in dramatic arts. So I could play what people played. I was so intrigued with how facial expressions and body movements, and it didn't make sense to me. I thought everything was sort of a human public relations game to talk people into liking you or to get a job. I never felt anything was authentic, I guess is what I'm saying. So I studied the metamorphosis of it, like a Margaret Mead would, and that just became a professorial job. And then I wasn't able to get tenure track position where I live now in Michigan, so I just wrote books and started sharing my story and working for a neurological assessment and support clinic, and it just blossomed from my innate interest in humans.
Fantastic. Liane, your first book, Pretending to be Normal, Living with Asperger's Syndrome, do you find that was almost a release for yourself, that it was a way in which to compartmentalise what was going on in your life?
Do you know what? That's a perfect way to say it. And I wrote that in about 3 months, and I have a writing background, so that wasn't something that would have been unusual for me, but it was so cathartic. Even though I had 3 very young children, I could not wait to get to my book like a drinker to a nice glass of champagne. I just couldn't wait. And when I was writing it, my dad, who was also on the spectrum, said, be careful, because what you're writing sounds good and wonderful to you, but people will criticize you and say you're less than and say you're not as good as and take your job away from you and use, disabilities as an excuse. Although in our life, it was never disability. It was always a cool thing to be.
Yeah.
So sure enough, after I wrote it, I was compared to Jeffrey Dahmer, whose history I'm sure we all horribly remember. And people were concerned about taking my children away from me. And the backlash was quite severe.
Okay.
And I persevered on behalf of my daughter and thinking this is just bull. We are good people. And now I must say that I'm glad, but I do sometimes wish I had written it with a pseudonym or a fake name, because I do run into people who now say I made it look too easy. So I wrote the safety skills book to come out and say, look, I was date raped, I had drug abuse, I had bulimia. It wasn't all good, but I just want to celebrate who I am. Is that okay, everybody?
I love it. I suppose a fantastic way in which to role model for your daughter.
Thank you. That was my intent.
No, good.
I didn't think anybody'd read the book. I thought.
Oh, no. I've studied autism spectrum studies here in Cork, in University College Cork, and your books are recommended reading for the course, so it's perfect, absolutely 100% fantastic.
Oh, that almost makes me cry. Thank you.
Can I ask you, Liane, I know that now that you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a university professor, you're an author, you're a volunteer, what aspects of your life do you find the most fulfilling today?
At the risk of insulting my children, they're grown adults now, so I'm sort of out of that mode. So role modeling for, one who's quite ADD, one who's autism spectrum disorder, and one who sort of has a bit of a, what's it called, where you shut down. She's not very social, no diagnosis, but my point being, role modeling for them was great, but really my most favorite thing is working with horses.
Yeah, I know that you work in an equine centre now, don't you?
I'm actually looking at a photograph of you with your horse at Kirkshire Farm.
Yeah, I do it on a very, very limited basis because now I'm going to be 60, and now I'm selfish with my time, and I mostly do it just with Liane and the horse. But, there's a couple of special ed folks I work with. I don't take any money. I just do it very informally because I'm at that stage in life where I can do that.
Fab. Can I ask you, Liane, I know that you write, you still write, and I know that you're the senior editor for Autism Spectrum Quarterly now, aren't you?
I am, but we just closed down 2 years ago, so
okay.
I just do freelance. Yeah, and that's sad.
It is, I suppose. I suppose for me, Liane, looking at all the books that you've written, looking at everything that you've done, I find it very inspirational, and I find it's great to see that there's a female role model like yourself, letting people know, modelling and letting people know moving forward, particularly girls who tend to be, I suppose, less likely to be diagnosed because they wear that mask that people would refer to. With regards to yourself when you were younger, would you have found it difficult to navigate school? Would you have found it difficult to navigate friendships, those social circles, before you had a diagnosis, to explain why things were a little bit challenging?
Well, not only did I do. I still find it very hard to do all of those things. Now I tend to disclose quite quickly and say, I get nervous, I talk a lot, I have a form of autism. I try not to get too much into the weeds with things. Because people then don't, still in America, when they hear autism, they think of the 3 characters they know on TV that are, gross exaggerations of a bunch of diagnoses put into one. And so I try not to educate, like, say, at a social gathering, but I try to drop a few key words so they'll maybe go home and Google it, and figure out what's up. But I think it's very difficult to social navigate, and yet I was quite popular in high school. I think because I didn't know I was popular, and I had known everyone in school since I was 4 years old. So we were all weird at 4, so it was just like, well, that's Liane, that's Joe, that's Mary, that's Sue. We didn't have this diversity of you're on this side of the room and I'm on the other. We just all were shoveled together. And I didn't like it, but I knew I could say to somebody, I have to leave now, let's go. And no one would laugh. They'd go, put her in the car, take Liane home, it's time for her to go. Next. No one was scared. So I don't understand this world where everybody's so mean and hateful. It's totally foreign to me.
Yeah, I suppose the way things are moving forward today with social media and stuff, things can be a little bit trickier again to navigate.
This is so hard. That's where I'm getting in trouble. The social media, I will post something about my politics or something, and people will come out like, okay, here's an example. My horse is on the cover of my second edition of Pretending to be Normal. He has a blue eye. People were writing that I was torturing my horse because look at his eye.
Oh, for goodness sake.
What do you mean? Are you kidding me?
It just seems bonkers.
That's what we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
So, you can't trust the world. I'm very scared for kids today and the old people that have no diagnosis. There are my 2 big quandaries.
And is that why, Liane, you're spending so much time around horses? Because they are such great therapy, aren't they?
Well, yes, and they love you. And if they don't, they kick you off.
Yeah.
There's no second guessing. If a horse likes you, you have a good ride. If a horse is uncomfortable with you, bye-bye. Off you go. And the war is settled.
So there's no grey, there's no in-between. It's black or white, and that's it. Liane, with regards...
Teach me grey exists. I'm sorry, what?
No, I was just going to say with regards to yourself and your husband, I know that you set up the Holliday-Wiley scholarship for the study of pervasive developmental disorders in the Grand Valley State University in Michigan. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, gosh, thank you for bringing that up. So my father was my role model, my hero. He raised me. He taught me how to speak autism, as was his language, and neurotypical, that he had to learn, to have a job and be an engineer. Shocking there that he was an engineer. He's a Scottish descent. His parents were from Scotland, and Tony Atwood always said that Asperger's syndrome started in Scotland. So my dad was very proud of that.
Oh, very good.
And he, as an engineer, whatever, taught me all of this. And you know what is embarrassing? I've already forgotten the question.
No, I was just saying that if you could tell me a little bit about the scholarship. Yeah.
So the scholarship, see, I get real nervous on the phone. My scholarship was for my dad, and he always said, much like Temple Grandin says today, that if we who have enough brain power, and that can be, debatable. We're not talking genius. We're just talking someone that can, find a life through a job. In other words, develop a skill set through higher education or trade school or experience or internships. We can survive and we can live to the best of our abilities, because he was so into doing the best with what you were given. We developed that scholarship, and we do have a priority for people on the autism spectrum to get the scholarship, and then beyond that, people that are interested in studying, those who are on the autism spectrum.
Fab. It's a great opportunity, I suppose, for people that are on the autism spectrum that perhaps wouldn't access it ordinarily, that it might be a little bit more difficult for them to navigate that system.
Yeah, and it helps them be aware of the fact that they may even be on the spectrum. Kids that need money to go to school look up at all kinds of scholarships, and as they read about it, they might say, hey, this sounds like me, and we have a new member of the club.
I love it. I love the way that there's that underhanded raising awareness and letting people know that perhaps they might have something going on in the background. I love it. Liane, I'm going to go in a different direction and ask you, I know that you've had a number of awards throughout your career, one of them being the Parkway Alumni of the Year 2014. Can you tell me a little bit about that? That's obviously linked to your academic work.
Well, you know what that was? That was my high school. It's a very large high school in St. Louis, Missouri, and they awarded me the Alumni Award of the Year, and I'm proud of that award because what it says is that teachers and students and support staff and janitors and everyone can help a child grow into who they need to be. And my school allowed me the freedom to be goofy and dramatic and have math dyslexia, but still be in the gifted and talented, quote-unquote, English classes. And my school was an experimental school in the 60s and 70s, and it was a model of not a lot of IEPs, but every student was taught as an individual despite our large size. So to me, I'm proof that that model of instruction, treating everyone as an individual because you want to, not because the government says you have to, is exactly what we need for every human being that walks the earth. And I was recognized because I was able to get the degrees and do work for people. So it's a combination of thank you, Parkway, for making me a good person, and thank you for recognizing that I tried to do the best I could. No one ever does the best they can, I guess, but I'm trying. So I appreciated the recognition.
I'll ask you, Liane, as well, another award that I know that you've received was the GRASP Parent of the Year 2012. For me, I suppose the Parenting Award is probably one of the highest awards that a mother can receive. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I always feel nervous about awards because why me? There's so many people that are doing so much more, so much better than I am, but I happen to have a very big mouth and enough ADD that I'm constantly shouting stuff out. So I get maybe a little more recognition because I don't shut up. But there's people that just are so much more superior to me. But that particular award meant a lot because my daughter, who's on the spectrum, went with me. And it was the first time she publicly said, I have autism. And she was 19, and it made me cry, and it was awesome because if you looked at her, you wouldn't see any differences. Yeah. But if you talked to her, you would say, hey, this girl, she does think differently. She is on a different page, etc. And that was a proud moment for both of us, and we enjoyed it so much that when we left, we went and had tattoos made together.
Oh, wow.
So that was a fun, silly praise for all of us, I think, and certainly not just Liane.
Fabulous. With regards to your writing, I'm going to flip again. With regards to your writing, I know that you've been you featured in the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the ABC News, just to name a few. Are there any of those particular experiences that you felt were very, very positive and would be a highlight for you?
I think the USA Today is a popular publication in America, and we were on the front page of that, and that to me was probably one of the highlights because I was glad that they put something like autism on the front page.
Yeah.
That it happened to be us was just, luck, I think, and, timing and all of that sort of thing. But to have a family, a female on the spectrum that had the look of the average, suburban family sitting by the pool, and yet behind it you could say, we struggle with this, we champion this, we're good at this, we're not so good at that. I loved the way they covered it and how they really pointed out that every person that walks has something to struggle with, and the good side of a coin that could be very negative. We just have to uncover it and find it. And I really liked that article in the press it gave our community.
No, I think, Liane, I'm listening to you here, and you say that you're not perhaps the best person to achieve or to acquire awards and so on, but you're definitely helping to break down those stereotypical tropes that people see. You're definitely breaking down that view that autism is just the person that is savant-like, or that is just that is completely nonverbal, or that is hyperlexic, or that is, you're breaking down those stereotypes, and you're showing the world that actually, first of all, females can have autism, and second of all, that females can be high functioning, they can achieve, but that they can still struggle, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm very, very verbal, but I can't find my way out of a paper bag, and I can't. Today we were watching a commercial, and it showed this plant that grew super, super big. And I said, I didn't know those plants grew that big. And my husband said, it's a joke. I have no idea what's real and what's not. But, I have a doctorate. How does that happen? I don't get the world. But I'm okay with that because you know what? That makes everything funny. A plant's that big. Ha, ha. Okay.
Liane, did you find it easy to mimic your peers?
Yeah, I used to, but you know what now? I mimic people on TV. I watch a lot of news, and I find there's times I'll go through and I think I sound just like Ellen DeGeneres. If I watch her for 2 hours, I have her cadence down perfect.
So you might have a new career. You might have a new career doing impressions.
Yeah, well, that would be fantastic. Let's set that up.
And I presume you were able to teach your daughter those coping mechanisms.
So Tony Atwood had us out. We went out to dinner with him last year, and I had a list of questions, and I was super hyper, and I adore him, and he diagnosed me, and, who doesn't adore Dr. Atwood? So I was peppering him with questions, and he said, Liane, we're going to talk about your horses, and then you're going to calm down. I'm tired. I'm getting overwhelmed. And I said, look at Meredith, my daughter. She's not even talking. You can't even tell she has autism. And he said, her coping mechanism is to be quiet and listen and learn. Yours is kind of to bulldoze through.
No, I think...
opposite. Her coping skill is to just sit and let mom embarrass the world.
And that's probably a very good strategy as well, Liane, a very good coping mechanism.
It's probably way better than mine. She got hired to a very nice job, and I get fired all the time. So the proof is in the pudding.
True. Liane, can I ask you one other question with regards to your motivational speaking? I know that you discuss difficulties around organisation and multitasking, social skills, sensory processing, all those kind of difficulties. Are there any words of advice that you can give to our listeners that would perhaps be dealing with those same difficulties or issues?
Those are the things that I think not only do not fade as we get older. In my mind, I'm 58 now. I feel like I'm regressing. And I am in therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, and I do think that the old school stuff, as Tony used to say, making lists, using executive toys. Okay, I almost missed this call today because I had the message on my computer for me to attend the conversation, but my computer was turned off.
Okay.
So I had no warning. So when if I hadn't picked up the phone, I would have missed our interview altogether. This is the kind of mistake I make every single day. So I think the more visuals, I should have put a visual up, but I have a lot going on right now with my kids and moving and my horses and et cetera. The more that gets piled on, the more behind I fall. I want to hire a public assistant. I can't. A personal assistant. Visuals, calendars, access as many things as you can, and realize that, we're supposed to break things into small pieces. So if you're making a recipe, for example, sounds simple enough. Get out all your ingredients first, and then break it down into tiny little pieces. If we try to say, I have 15 things to do on Monday. We'll probably finish one.
Okay.
So we have to take it one little step. Now I'm trying to speak Ireland. One little step at a time. There's one accent I can't get. It's the Irish. I have to learn it. It's killing me. But I think chopping it down into tiny little pieces and lots of reminders, and then enlisting the help of any friends you may have, even if it's an email friend. Hey, will you email me and remind me that I have to go to the doctor on Friday at noon?
Okay, so you're really looking at bringing it back to basics, Liane, putting up visual schedules.
Oh my goodness, that perfect statement. Back to basics.
Yeah. No,
kindergarten learning, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, that's perfect. Can I add one final question for you just before I let you go, Liane? With regards to sensory integration or sensory processing, are there any strategies that you find have been beneficial to kind of quieten things down for yourself?
Well, right now I'm sitting in my closet. In my closet is a mess. I would send you a picture, but everyone would be horrified. And this is where I sit because even though it's a mess, it's little, and I can close the door and I can be in like a little cave. Okay. And that's not my favorite thing. I have to avoid. I'm a sensory avoider. I have to avoid noises, touches. I've taken off shirts in cars and driven with just a bra on. With who can see? I don't care because I can't stand the things that are touching my skin. That's my biggest. Bleh. So my only advice on that is stay true to yourself. I know that velvet is the fabric of the year. You will not find velvet on this body. I don't care how many people tell me to wear it. It's not going to happen. So I don't stay true to trends. I know I have to dress a certain way if I'm going to go to a business party, blah, 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 but it's not going to be velvet. So I try to find a happy mix. I don't ever try to please the world or someone else because I will end up stripping in public, and then, that's really not a good thing. So I wear the little earplugs, but instead of the bright pink, I wear the flesh-colored, unless I'm around my autistic friends, and then I wear bright pink, and they care less. So I try to fit in as best I can to keep my job and to keep from embarrassing some of my family members who don't like to be put in the spotlight by my odd behavior. I have to respect them. I don't like it, but I respect it. Other than that, I'm largely homebound or at the barn where I am comfortable, and that can carry me over like an aspirin to an hour of uncomfortableness. Then I retreat, and I come back out. So never be afraid to go into a restroom or a corner and stim or bite your finger, whatever you have to do, short of self-harming. I've been there, done that. No self-harming. We're done with that. Find something that's healthy to get yourself integrated. And always remember you have to refuel that tank because the world will deplete you of sensory safety really quickly on some days.
So literally, Liane, what you're saying is stay true to yourself. Don't allow for the world to deplete you. Keep your energy tank and your fuel tanks up and running, and it is okay to stim. If it's necessary, it's okay to stim, and it is okay to do it in the safety of a space that you feel that you're most comfortable in.
I think so, and if I know how to work in. This is a great one for women or men. You just rock back and forth, and if someone says something, you just say, "Oh, you know what? I was just holding a baby last night. I'm still in the rocking mode."
Fantastic.
It's just every mother can do it, so why can't I?
Absolutely, and you sound absolutely brilliant fun. I think you'd be a pleasure to hang out with, and thank you so much for coming on Autism Journeys.
Thanks for having me, girls, ladies, whatever I'm supposed to do.
Liane, thank you very, very much. And listen, I wish you a happy Christmas and your daughter a fabulous time in her new living space.
Thank you so much. And the best to you all over there, too. I hope to meet you all someday soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Liane. Take care.
Goodbye.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Bye. Thanks again to our two guests, Anna Kennedy and Liane Holliday-Wiley, for coming on the show this evening. Thanks to everyone for listening, and don't forget to tune in next time. Good night.